you had a good time as mayor.
We attracted $20.2 billion of new business into the city. We had the empowerment zone, the Renaissance zone, and the other things that we attracted business with. We were written up in the newspapers around the United States, whether it was the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, LA Times, Baltimore papers, Chicago papers. People were talking about the comeback city. I mean, we had new development downtown. We had 2 ballparks. We had 3 temporary casinos. We had new housing going up. We had a tech town because General Motors, when they moved away from their Fleetwood Cadillac plant, developed an area, cleaned it out so that we could add new businesses out there. And these businesses, a number of them, were businesses owned by people of color. And it just created new jobs. Vinnie Johnson was hired people and got them off the welfare rolls. A lot of different kinds of things. I mean, you know, same thing, Ron Hall, John James, and everybody participated. In the empowerment zone, our financial institutions, which when I was running for mayor, a number of businesses, especially businesses of color, would say, banks won't loan us money. So I went to Detroit Renaissance and said, would you all come up with a $50 million fund that you can take an equity position in, whatever you want to do, but make sure the capital is available for businesses of color as to support loans, etc., that they needed to grow their business. The financial institutions led by Brenda Snyder, who was a vice president of Comerica Bank at the time, they came up with $1.2 billion that they committed to lend over 10 years. The automotives, Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, said we will commit to provide $600 million worth of new business over 10 years. The first call I got was from my man Bob Eaton, who was the chairman and CEO of Chrysler. He called me from Argentina and said, Mr. Mayor, would you be interested in having a $750 million engine plant? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was excited about it. And he had another plant. General Motors followed. Ford Motor Company got involved through Wayne Doran in terms of causing some business to happen with John James. And then the voters of the state of Michigan said that they would entrust the city of Detroit to have up to 3 privately owned casinos. We were able to get a new baseball stadium that, thanks to the voters and others, that provided a new baseball stadium for our Tigers to play in called Comerica Park. And then Bill Ford, who I had met with, and Bill Ford was the person who was assigned to work with the city of Detroit by the chairman and CEO of Ford Motor Company at the time, because his focus was other. So he and I would have lunch. I would go out, talk to him. He'd come down to Detroit, have lunch with me in a little private area that we had in the mayor's office to talk about the city of Detroit and what Ford Motor Company could do and the other things and the like. And I got a call from him one day, and he said, Mr. Mayor, I'm having a tough time with trying to work out something fair and reasonable with the city of Pontiac. If we can't work it out, would you be interested in having the Detroit Lions come back to the city of Detroit? Yes! I was at it again. And so we wound up with the 2 stadia. And then I had a very brilliant corporation counsel by the name of Phyllis James. Phyllis observed that we had, when I was running, that there was a challenge to the market share program or affirmative action program that Mayor Young had in place. It was working quite well, but it was challenged because it did not meet the Richmond versus Croson ruling of the United States Supreme Court, something that Mr. Bradford, William Bradford Reynolds, who is in the Justice Department under President Reagan, caused for settled cases to be reopened and went before the Supreme Court. It did not meet the test, so we had no affirmative action program. And you had to meet the disparage impact initiative to satisfy Richmond versus Croson. And there's no way with a city that had an African-American mayor, majority of city council African-American, all department heads across the board, you couldn't make that case. She came up with the fact that there were so many businesses in the city of Detroit that we came up with Executive Order 4. Executive Order 4 required all of our city departments to do 30% of their business with Detroit-based businesses. Because so many of the businesses had left the city of Detroit, businesses of color had no place to go but to remain here. And so they were able to be very successful in doing a lot of outstanding work. And I can point to a lot of different buildings and things that they were involved in, because the two stadium, the Ford family and the Ilitch family, the 3 different casinos said they would, as did CompuWare. When they moved into the city of Detroit, said they would come. They had adopted Executive Order 4. So we had a lot of growth during that time. We were looked as a comeback city. We had a federal government with President Bill Clinton, Vice President Gore, with people like Robert Rubin and Henry Cisneros and Gene Sperling, who were strong advocates, along with Henry Cisneros, for cities. And so they had a program and an approach because Governor Clinton had met with the U.S. Conference of Mayors to understand what cities needed, so he provided tools for a hand up rather than a hand out to allow cities to start doing things to help themselves. And I would take advantage of every COPS program. The COPS program was grants that would be available to hire police officers, and you had to commit to keep them on. And so after the money, for them ran out, we had a reduction of crime every year that I was mayor. We balanced the budget every year. We had a modest rainy day fund every year. And so we made a lot of changes, but I will tell you, it takes a lot out of you. I was spending 16, 18-hour days. I'd go on vacation and just to sort of think fast forward or look backward, when I became mayor, for example, we didn't have computers in our office. We had rotary dial telephones. Yeah. And so when I'm on vacation, I would have a portable fax machine. I'd have a pager, a cell phone, and a laptop to try to stay in touch with the office. And I had to come back a couple of times. I came back because we got down to short strokes, and we needed an agreement between the Ilitches and the Fords to put something on the Wayne County ballot, and it had to be done within. So I came back from vacation to do that. I came back because of a school strike, and I wanted to get our kids back in school as soon as possible, so I left vacation. Those are the kind of things that you do. And then regrettably, you also have threats against your life and against your family's life because of the things that you do. The toughest thing that I ever had to do as mayor, just as an aside, was going to the hospital and meeting with the families of the police officers who were injured or killed in the line of duty, and then to go to their funerals and to speak and to see their children and their family out there in front of you. I could never get through without showing a sense of emotion, those kind of things.
The perception of you, and I appreciate the insight you've given us, the perception by the name droppers, political name droppers and so on, was that you should be thinking about becoming governor, or you should be thinking about becoming a member of the the cabinet, the Clinton cabinet, or something? Because I think because you made yourself present, you were there, you were involved with people at the state and federal level on behalf of the city. Were those ever attractive ideas or options?
There were options. Right after President Clinton won re-election, I was called by a cabinet officer and talked to me about 3 different cabinet positions. And I said, thank you, but I haven't finished my first term as mayor. My commitment is to the city. I still want to be and will be supportive of the president, whatever he does, but I got to stay with my city. So I turned down those opportunities. And as it relates to the office of governor, after I left the mayor's office, my numbers were still high in terms of favorability. And when it was clear that the governor was term limited, I'm talking about Governor Granholm, I was asked by a number of close friends that had been very supportive of me when I was mayor if I would look at the office of governor. And I thought about it. And I said, I'll look. I had in mind that there were 35 different meetings as I penciled down that I wanted to have. And it was so early, it allowed me to do what was important to me. I wanted to meet with these groups to ask them, I'm coming to you, I want to know what you think. I want to know what you want or expect from the next government.
Building the similar kind of lead up you did as you were looking at becoming mayor.
And so I would meet and ask them questions. They were shocked that somebody would come and ask them what they thought, because typically when people come to meet with them, they come and say, I'm running for this and I would like your support and here's what I want from you, etc. When I walked away from those meetings, I got the support and stuff that I wasn't even asking for, but there was commitments because they appreciated somebody who thought enough and respected them enough that they would ask them what they thought. After I'd gone through about 20 meetings, there's something else in the back of my mind, to be very candid. I love this state. This is a very outstanding, unique state made up of a lot of different wonderful people, a lot of different backgrounds. While we had statewide elected officers of color, myself being one on the Supreme Court, Conrad Mallett, who followed, Bob Young, who followed. We've had outstanding folks like Richard Austin and others who've been elected. We've never had a governor or a person of color win this state. When President Barack Obama became president and won the state of Michigan, that took away any need for me to say another word or do anything. The other thing that scared me to death was, if I ran, I thought I might have a good shot at winning the Democratic nomination. I had a very good working relationship with labor. Steve Yokich, Ron Gittelfinger, the folks
Presidents of UAW, right?
President Jim Hoffa, Bill Black, the folks with SEIU and ASME, etc. I had a good working relationship. I mean, I always had an open door policy when I was mayor, but I was a very strong mayor in terms of I wasn't going to give away the store.
Yes.
But I also had a working relationship with business, because we need business to create the jobs. It's so important, and you've got to have that working relationship. I would meet with the Detroit Renaissance almost monthly. I would meet quarterly I had to encourage them to meet the Detroit Regional Chamber because I wanted to know what they were thinking. I wanted them to know what we were trying to do. And they were very helpful in getting things done, and we worked together. So I had a good working relationship. But the thing that scared me to death is, what if I won?
Yes.